I want you to turn to Matthew chapter 28. And I'm not sure exactly how all this is going to work out this morning. There's way too much material, and I may be giving you way too much information. I hope that will not be true, but this really should be about a 6-month study, and we would just walk you through this phrase by phrase and step by step. But we kind of want to do an overall view of this particular passage, which you know of as the Great Commission. And it begins at verse 16 and goes through the end of the chapter. And of course, what's happening at the end of the chapter, the final statement of Jesus are being given to us. And all of this, of course, as you realize, from Matthew's perspective. So what we're doing is we're coming into Matthew's writing. We're getting into his mindset, his purpose, what he desires to say. And we are seeing the whole flow of this coming to this brilliant climax, which is the Great Commission. And everything seems to be focused on that. In fact, it would be proper to say that if you really grab a hold of where Matthew is and what he's trying to get done, this would be what he's trying to get done. This is the climax of the whole thing. This is where he's going with everything else. And I want to read it for you, and then we want to walk through it. Verse 16, chapter 28, verse 16. Then the 11 disciples went away into Galilee, to the mountain which Jesus had appointed for them. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. And Jesus came and spoke to them, saying, All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go, therefore, and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you, and lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the world and the age. Amen. Woo! Some passage, isn't it? Interesting thing that Matthew treats the whole resurrection idea different. Resurrection is there, but we only have 2 resurrection appearances of Jesus in the book of Matthew. We don't have the Emmaus Road. We don't have any of that, those kind of 40 days in the book of Acts that Luke gives to us. We don't have any of that. We don't have the upper room scene of Jesus appearing there. We have none of those resurrection appearances at all. So if you just had Matthew and you weren't reading anything else, and you were just reading his perspective and what he's trying to say, it's a bit startling. Because you have this angel coming down, shaking the whole ground, and the earthquake takes place. The stone is rolled back by the angel himself, and lo and behold, Jesus is already gone. In other words, he didn't roll the stone away to let Jesus out. Jesus was already gone by the time the angel got there. And the reason the stone was rolled away was so that we could come in. Or we'd still say, hey, maybe he's in there. So we found out he wasn't in there because the stone was rolled away. So you got that whole scene. Then Mary Magdalene and the other Mary had come early, as you know, to give with spices to anoint the dead body, not knowing how they were going to get in. And of course, when they got there, then the angel and all of that took place. So the angel invites them in. Come on in here, take a look, see what's going on. So they go in, see that the dead body is not there. There is no dead body. And the angel begins to talk to them and see he is not here. He is risen. And so they, all of a sudden, they've been dead tired up to this time, you understand, because they've been up all night grieving, night after night grieving through all this whole thing. But now they all of a sudden had all this energy and alive, and they're just really pumped because Jesus is alive. Why? Angel just said so. So they say, the angel turns to Mary Magdalene and the other Mary and reminds them, if you look at verse 7 of chapter 28, go quickly and tell his disciples he is risen. So they're going to be the first voice given to the resurrection news. They're the first ones, these 2 women. And note, one of them was a prostitute. Had been. Which is interesting. Because maybe I could get in. So he didn't choose the guy who had never. So go quickly and tell his disciples that he's risen from the dead. And indeed, he is going before you into Galilee. In other words, he has just said, what I want you to do is, I want you to go and remind the disciples that I'm making an appointment with them in Galilee. Now, you realize all the disciples had been in Jerusalem, obviously, because there was a crucifixion. And Jesus had come to them and said, hey, don't leave Jerusalem. Stay right here until you're endued with power from on high, and spent 40 days with them. Now, I don't know how you fit all this together, but I'm not messing with that. I'm looking at Matthew. I don't have to mess with all that. See, I'm just looking at Matthew. So Matthew gives this account. The angel appears to the lady, said, hey, go tell the disciples, be sure, and hey, he is risen from the dead. And be sure and tell them, hey, don't forget the appointment that has been made. Because an appointment had been made with them to meet in Galilee. It was Tuesday at 4 a.m. at the base of the mountain. I just made that up. So, be sure there's an appointment in all of this. Now, they're in Jerusalem, so obviously they've got to go all the way to Galilee, which was 80 to 100 miles. They've got to walk that distance. And they've got to leave all the fishing and all that sort of thing. And they've got to concentrate on this appointment that they are going to meet the resurrected Lord at that point. Now, Jesus had made this appointment. If you back up, you will find it in chapter 26, verse 32. He is in the upper room with the disciples. He's coming down with them, and they're going to the Garden of Gethsemane. Lord's Supper has been instituted, all of that. And if you look at verse 30, you will see that they sang a hymn. They went out to the Mount of Olives, and as they are on their way down, Jesus said to them, all of you will be made to stumble because of me this night, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have been raised, I will go before you to Galilee. Tuesday, 4 p.m., base of the mountain in Galilee. Want to see you. And he made an appointment with them. Now the angel shows up, tells the ladies, hey, remind the guys, Tuesday, 4 p.m., base of the mountain, want to see him. It's an appointment. Now you come to verse 16. Then the 11 disciples went away into Galilee to the mountain, which Jesus had appointed for them. Now this is the only scheduled, on my day timer, resurrected appearance. All the rest of them, he just showed up. Whoa, there he is. Yeah, we fellowship. Whoop, he's gone. But this one was by appointment. I want to see you. Which takes this resurrection appearance, in my mind, and raises it to a whole new level of importance. Not that the others weren't important. Not that walking down the Emmaus Road and Jesus showing up and we didn't recognize him and then we ate hot dogs and we saw him. Not that. I mean, that's all there, and that's good. We're not knocking that. But this is, hey, something so definite, something so important. Hey, this is, I've got to talk to you, and I want to be sure you're all there. This is, hey, we're going to have a board meeting, man. This is, hey, you got to come, see. If you, we'll schedule it when you're going to be there, because this is important, heavy stuff. That's the impact of this. So what Matthew does is, he takes the whole resurrection of Jesus, which I want to focus on life, and I want to focus on eternal living, and streets of gold, and mansion in the sky, and lazy boy recliner, golden chandelier, lemonade, please, and angels serving me. See, I want to focus on all of that. But he takes the whole resurrection and focuses it on the Great Commission. That the resurrection has a vision. That the resurrection is not about, oh, good, I'll get to live forever. No, the resurrection is about, there is an overwhelming mission. There is a great task. I am enlisting you. And that the view, the focus, the vision of the resurrection is somehow all wrapped up in this final passage, which brings purpose, which brings destiny, which brings, man, I know why I'm alive. Which brings, this is why I get out of bed at 4:30 in the morning. Yes, this is why. Hey, this is meaning. This is purpose. This gives focus to my life. This gives, hey, I matter. Why? because you got the whole focus of Jesus' death and resurrection. All of his teaching, death, resurrection, all focused right here in this one passage. The Great Commission. That's phenomenal. Now what that tells me is that if I miss this, I've missed it all. That this is not Jesus died for me and I get all scot-free. Yay! See, that's not what this is about. That this is somehow an integration of the person of Jesus and his purpose and his mind and his destiny and what he wants and where he's going, all infused into me until I'm pulled into it. And to miss this would be to miss it all. In fact, come to think of it, it's not just Matthew, it's the whole Scriptures. Do you realize that the book of Genesis starts out with God coming on the scene in Genesis chapter 3? And the big question is, Adam, where are you? And God is searching for man and calling on a mission, looking for man. Do you realize that the book of the Revelation in chapter 22, last chapter, and the last few verses, says something about the Spirit and the bride say, come. That the whole message from the beginning of the book to the end of the book is, oh, come on, world! That there is a vision, there is a mission, there is a call, and that it's all about redemption. It's all about somehow you got to be transformed. It's all about every man, every woman, every boy, every girl, everywhere, every place. Somehow, something dramatic has got to take place in their lives in relationship to the intimacy with God. Do you realize that God never, you don't have one record in the Scriptures where God ever moved his little finger, raised it at all, except he did it to redeem you? Why did you do that, God? Oh, just having a good time. See, he never did that. You don't find any of that. You don't find him on vacation. You don't find him in anything. It's always about everything I'm doing has a focus. It has one single drive. There's one passion. I got one thing on my mind. I got one thing I want to get done. For God so loved the world that he gave. The Son of Man came to seek and to save that which was lost. That everything is about this one mission, this one passion, this one dream, this one thing that I've got to get done, that God is all wrapped up in that. And somehow when you come to this, then you are literally being called into involvement in that. What's your involvement? How involved are you in this? What's your goal? What's your drive? What is it that you talk about that just makes your face light up? Oh. See, what's your turn on? See, that becomes the question of the passage. All your plans, what are they about? What's your dream? What's in your bucket list? See, what drives you? What do you spend all your time on? If you're going to work yourself into a heart attack, what you going to work on? When you come home from the day just dog tired, you slop in the door, man, you bump against the cabinets, you go over, you just flop on the couch and say, oh, I'm so tired from... What do you get tired over? What do you wear yourself out on? See, that's this passage. Evidently, Jesus had one goal, one drive. If he was going to suffer, it was going to be for one thing. If he was going to give himself, it was going to be for one thing. If something was going to master him, it would be one thing. That everything contained somehow revolved around in his life, was revolving around this one thing that he's going to share with his disciples. Here's the one driving passion. What is it that you get upset about? Is it connected with this? What is it that it makes me mad? It just ticks me off. Is it connected with this? This mission. This one thing. That's this passage. Let me walk you through it. Verse 16. Then the 11 disciples went away into Galilee, to the mountain which Jesus had appointed for them. Now this verse, the concept of the verse is about surrender. It's the atmosphere of this vision. In other words, the vision of the resurrection is all about surrender. And hey, you would expect this, I suppose. I would expect the scriptures to start with that, because surrender is so basic. We talk about it all the time. And this verse just smells of it. In other words, the disciples, if they're going to go to Galilee for the appointed time, be there and get in on this mission, they're going to have to surrender. They're going to have to surrender, 80 miles of walking to get there. They're going to have to surrender time. They could have been out fishing, making money, but they had to surrender that. They had to give this up, that up, the other up. There was a surrender, would you not agree, involved in keeping this appointment for Jesus. There was a call to go to Galilee, where he's going to unload this tremendous vision of the resurrection. And in order to get in on that, they are going to have to do something about surrender. They had to give up their fishing business to get involved in this mission. They had to give up all of their energy. Hey, this is going to wear them out. I mean, as you look at the disciples, this is going to take all their time. This is going to take all their energy. I mean, this is going to be a one commitment of their life. This is going to literally bring them to death. They're going to die over this thing, people. So when you look at this whole, I'm going to Galilee at the base of this mountain to get in on this mission, and I'm giving absolutely, I mean, there's nothing else on my plate, brother, but this one thing. I'm driven by this. I'm captured by this. Everything in my life is going to be on this level. That's some surrender, isn't it? Amens are okay. Now you see, it comes to me then, and I say, well, yeah, I want to be a part of the mission. I mean, hey, what Jesus wants to do in my world, resurrected Christ, he's Lord, hallelujah. Hey, I want in on that, but that's a pretty high level. What would you call that level? Number 10. We'll do a 1 to 10 thing. That's a level 10. I'm not sure I want to be a level 10. See, could there possibly be some other levels? Everybody meets their own level. Come on. We are who we are. So, obviously, maybe I'm not going to get in on a level number 10. I'm really not. But hey, I'm willing to get in on some level. Well, what level would you like to choose? Well, I'll be a level 5. Now, let me tell you what a level 5 consists of. You come Sunday morning, at least every other. And you tithe. Tithing would be important for level 5. Yeah. And you keep the normal basic rules of the church. Level 5 would probably be that. Yeah. So I'm not a level 10. That would be all out, down to it, 100%, don't think about anything else, always wrapped up in the mission. And that would be like the disciples, end up dying over it. I'm not going to do that. But level 5, I'm willing to contribute, and we need people to contribute. So level 5, you're in. I'm not a level 5, I'm a level 1. What's a level 1? Well, once a month I come to church. And I do not tithe. Level 1. But I'm still in. Level 1. I'm a level 7. See, I not only come on Sunday morning every other Sunday, and I not only tithe my money, but I come on Wednesday night too. I'm a 7. So we're going to have out here from now on a chart. And we're charting you out. That's the way we think, don't we? Well, I'm not what I ought to be, but I'm better than most. Now, here's the startling thing. I don't know what you want to do with this, and I don't want to discourage you at all. But when you come to this whole scene, what you end up with is there are no levels. Come on, in or out. You are or you aren't. And the mission either captures you or it doesn't. That's really strong, isn't it? But that's the impact of this. See, I wish that there were levels, because then my job would shift. My job as pastor would be to crank you up, encourage you. So the purpose of this Sunday morning was, you're a level 5, move to a level 7. Let's hear it for no level 7s. Woo! See, it would be to encourage you and get you to move up a level. Oh, you've been praying before your meals. Pray before you go to bed now too. So crank it. See, come on. I would be motivational speaker. Listen, come to the altar. There's $5 pasted under one of these altars. See, it would be to motivate you. See, that would be the purpose, right? But see, that's not my role. I'm not a motivational speaker. I don't come to motivate you. See, if you come for me to pat you on the back, and whoa, I feel better, I think I can make it now. Hey, you've come to the wrong place, because we're here to whip you to death. So this is not a motivational place. Why? Because this is not a motive. See, if we have to motivate you, if you're in a position where we have to motivate you, then you've got a spiritual problem, man. And you need Jesus in a real desperate way. See, if we have to come on Sunday morning, I have to whip you and put you in your place and come on and encourage you and come on, do this and do that and then please. If I have, see, then that whole thing, it all falls apart, because that means this whole deal is you got a spiritual problem. You aren't where you ought to be spiritually, and motivating you isn't going to do a thing in all of this. See, this is about you being captured with a Jesus who literally grips you and literally brings you into his heart and says, man, I got a mission. I got a vision. I'm going to, hey, would you like to get in on this? Would you like to join me? I'm going somewhere. And I want to share it with you. Hey, Tuesday, 4 p.m., base of the mountain. Come on. Now, it's interesting. You move to verse 17, and you immediately move into the idea of submission. And when they saw him, they worshiped him. And then there's the phrase, but some doubted, but we won't get into that, because that all ties in. But when they saw him, they worshiped him. Well, what's the difference between surrender and submission? Well, see, surrender is the atmosphere of this vision. And submission is the attitude. See, it's not hard to get you to surrender. Gun in your back will do it. Yeah, and we preachers are good at that. We're good at putting guns in your back. You're going to go to hell. Okay, preacher. See, we're good at. But see, that's not this. See, surrender with a gun in your back is not, well, I suppose I got to. See, that's not this. See, this is about submission, which is an attitude of worship that says, I've been captured. This has become I get in on this. Think of that. The resurrected Lord has come, and I'm in an appointment with him Tuesday at 4 p.m. at the base of the mountain, and he's unloading on me to a mission? Whoa! Why wouldn't I want to be in on that? Suddenly my life has purpose. My life has... Suddenly I'm going someplace. Suddenly the whole resurrection is not an event. It's a Jesus who's alive, who's getting something done, and I get to be in on it. Woo! See, why wouldn't I want that? Why wouldn't that? My whole heart and life would line up with that. And by the way, in our movement, we call that holiness, because holiness is a love passion. Holiness is, woo, I'm so captured by him, I'm just out of my skin. Sin? Wouldn't do that. Why? Wouldn't hurt him for the world, man. Why? I love him. It isn't, don't do that. It's, man, I love Jesus so much I can't hardly stand it. I wouldn't, if he doesn't want it, I don't want it. It isn't about right or wrong, good or bad, can you or can't you. It's all about, man, his heart, and I want to be on his mind, and I want to think his thoughts, and, man, I want to get in on the very essence of his heart. That's what this is about. See, that's an attitude. Can you imagine the amazingness of this? That God has literally taken a knife and slit himself down the middle and opened up his heart. The Trinity has opened up its insides and said, hey, come on in here and be a part of my heart. And I said, well, forget your heart. I want your power. He says, I don't want you in on my power. I'm not inviting you to be omnipotent. I want you in on my nature. Well, Lord, it'd really help me if I could be omnipresent. I could pastor 50 churches at one time. And hold revivals too. It'd be great. He says, I'm not inviting you to get in on my omnipresence. I want you in my heart, man. My nature. How I feel. Where I'm going. What I want to accomplish. My dreams. I want you in on that. See, we are not errand boys. We're not water boys on the team. We're not assembly line workers. Come on, we're in the management, son. We're sitting at the big table, putting our head together with the Trinity, saying, hey, what do you think here? See, we're in on the inside stuff. Why? Because we're in on the mission. Tuesday, 2 p.m., 4 p.m., down at the base of the mountain. I want to see you. See, we're in on that. And when I say we, I'm talking about you. And I love to talk about you. I do it all the time. So I'm talking about you. See, you're in on this. He's called you. Now, if you react to this by saying, man, I don't have any talent. I'm an introvert. I'm a nerd, too. See, look at the next verse. Jesus came and spoke to them, saying, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. There's the supply. That's the supply. See, verse 16 is the surrender. Verse 17 is the submission that is tied to the surrender, that turns it all loose and the passion of his heart. And verse 18 is the unloading of the supply. And did you notice that there is a all-inclusiveness involved in the supply? Do you see that? All authority. See, that's an all-inclusive resource. Man, that keeps me from weeping myself to sleep at night. Because we have got the resource to pull this off. all authority. By the way, the word authority is not dunamis, which is the idea of explosive, which is the dynamite concept. That's not this word. This word is the right to decide. God has given the right to decide to Jesus. And you know what he's decided? You're in. That's what he's decided. He's decided to turn himself loose in you. So he has decided, so he becomes the resource of the entire matter. It's also interesting that there is all-inclusive involvement. Did you notice? Is given. All authority has been given. That Jesus didn't have this authority on his own. It was given to him. Well, wait a minute. If it was given to him, where did he get it? From the Father. That he doesn't have this because he's God. He has this because he's a man filled with God, which is exactly where you are. You're to be a man filled with God, which means you have the same resource because it's given to him as a prototype. Now it's passed on to you. So all authority, we have the resource, folks, to get this done. In fact, as you move on, you discover in the same verse, it's all-inclusive dominion because it's in heaven and in earth. Woo! This is not just a 70-year deal. Thank you, Jesus, for that, because I've already gone beyond that one. I'm in the 80s now. Whoa! This is a heaven thing as well. This is an eternal call. See, what we're asking you to get involved in here, what he's asking you to get involved in here, which is his heart and the mission of the resurrection, what he's asking you to get involved in here is going to go on forever and ever and ever and ever. You don't retire. That's significant. That's really significant. In fact, then you go to verse 19. Now, verse 16 is the surrender. Verse 17 is the submission. Verse 18 is the supply. Oh, I didn't give you the rest of it. Verse 16 is the surrender, which is the atmosphere of the mission. Verse 17 is the submission, which is the attitude of the mission. Verse 18 is the supply, which is the amount for the mission. Verse 19 is the structure, which is the approach in the mission. Listen to this. Go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Now, it's really interesting when you look at this particular verse that the emphasis is not on go. We think it is. We preachers have preached on that. Jesus said, go! Crank it up! Move it, move it, move it! That's not the emphasis of the verse. In fact, the word go is not in the imperative. The imperative in the verse is make disciples. So what God is commanding in this passage is, I command you to make disciples. That the vision, folks, is not in going. The vision is making disciples. In fact, the truth of it is you don't have to go. That's all right. Because he didn't say you had to. He said, I command you, make disciples. The going is assumed in the language. It's assumed. In other words, it's like, I know you're going to go. I know you're on your way. Hey, you already got your coat on. Oh, you got your hat on too. Oh, you're going out the door. Wait a minute. Before you leave, I want to tell you what to do. Make disciples. So he's not telling you to go. You're already doing that. Why? Because you're motivated out of your gourd, man. It's Tuesday, 4 p.m. down at the base of the mountain. Whoa, man, I got captured with and this vision of the resurrection has got a hold of me, and I'm burning in my bones, so I'm on my way, man. I'm on my way. Well, what are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to make disciples. Yeah, I'm making disciples. So the emphasis is not on the going. Relax. The emphasis is on making disciples. You don't have to get people saved. Ooh, that's going to make some folks upset. No, hey, stick with me. It's not getting people saved. Not what you're after? No. Disciples! He doesn't say anything in the verse about getting saved. Now, it's assumed that if you become a disciple, you probably got saved. I mean, that would be assumed, right? So we do want you to get saved. It's a step in the process. But wait a minute. It isn't just getting saved. It's being a disciple. I think I've become maybe a little better than I used to be. Not quite as sarcastic. But one of my favorite sarcastic things was, I get up on a certain day and have a certain time that I go sinner hunting. I stomp into my gospel gun closet, open up the door, put on my gospel gun chaps, put on my gospel gun vest, get my gospel gun 6-shooter, tie it down, and I'm going sinner hunting. I go stomping down the road, stalking sinners. Whoop, there's one. I pop behind the telephone pole. I spot him. All of a sudden, I jump out, draw my gospel gun, and blow him away. Put a notch on my gospel gun. Got another one. That's not this. See, I'm not happy until you're a disciple. You got to be a disciple. Well, preacher, who are all these people in the church? Well, yeah, they come. Who are they? Well, they're not disciples. Are you glad they come? Yes. 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 Will you feed them? Yeah. But they're not disciples. So are you happy? No! Why? Because I got to make disciples. Were are all disciples Christians? Yes. You can't be a disciple without being a Christian. Can you be a Christian without being a disciple? No! Well, I got my free ticket to the sky. I'd like to see it. See, this is disciple stuff. That the whole resurrection is all focused on. You have got to make disciples. That somehow, I got to get you into the heart of God. Somehow, you got to begin to think like He thinks. Somehow, you got to feel like He feels. Somehow, this is not, oh, finally, we got you to come to church. No, this is, oh, finally, you are beginning to, there's the flow of, He is working. The resurrected Lord is in power. You are fused. You and Him have gotten together. In fact, you've gotten in on the mission, haven't you? Woo! And you have become a disciple. That's the deal. Well, preacher, okay. Verse 16 is the surrender. It's the atmosphere of this vision. Verse 17 is the submission. It's the attitude of the mission. Verse 18 is the supply. It's the amount for the mission. Verse 19 is the structure. It's the approach in the mission. What's this last verse? It's the security. Yeah, it's the security of the whole thing. It's the assurance in the mission. Well, if I'm going to sign up for this, preacher, I'd like to know what the retirement plan is. Oh, it's great. Well, what is it? Oh, look at it. I am with you always. Now grab a hold of this. Do you recognize that that comes at the end? That's not for everybody. It comes at the end. And only when you're captured by the vision, the resurrection, and you've got his mind and his heart, that this becomes true. See, this is all contingent. Jesus, I still think, Lord, I like the idea of you died for me and I get off scot-free better. See, I expected to come this morning and get into the fact that you raised from the dead for me. You're preparing a place for me. You have done all this to forgive me. I'm going to live forever. Thank you for doing that for me. I thought that was going to be the deal. And all of a sudden, we're into a whole, you're calling me to everybody else. You're calling me to win my whole world. You're calling me to get in on your mind, which is driving me to all nations. That it's not I've got my schedule and I've got my job and I've got what I want and then if I have some leftover time, it isn't that anymore. It's somehow you've consumed me. Somehow you've mastered me. Somehow every aspect of my life is all wrapped up in this vision and this mission. And that daily I'm wringing my hands and daily I'm climbing the walls because I have your heart and I can't stand it if people aren't disciples. I see their lives crumbling. I see the damnation that's going on in their very essence of their families and relationships. And God, I can't tolerate it. It keeps me up at night. It drives me night and day. Why? Because it drives you. And I got your mind and I got your heart. And And I realize, oh God, I've got to be a disciple in order to make disciples. So I haven't come to lay anything on anybody here, God, but I've come to examine this morning my involvement in all of this. Too casual. I'm not pushy enough. I'm too distracted by stuff and Lord, I don't want any kind of structure in that sense for my life. I'm not asking you to, well, Manley, get up at this time in the morning and do this and then go do that and go. And I'm not interested in that, God. What I'm interested in is your heart and your mind until the way you think and how you see. And I would see people like you see them, and I would be driven with what you're driven with, and the resurrected Lord and all that you've been involved in with one mission and one passion would begin to burn in my bones. And I'm not looking for an involvement. Well, I'll improve my involvement. I'll go from a 5 to a 6. I'm not interested in that, God. I'm interested in you becoming the passion of my life, and what you're passionate about, I become passionate about as well. So could you capture me with your mission? Heads are bowed. Wouldn't it be something this morning? God is calling you. That He's making an appointment Tuesday, 4 p.m. Base of the Mount. I'm going to unload on you. You aren't going to sit there in that chair this morning and try to tell me you couldn't be more involved in the mission. Make disciples. Are you going home day after day, worn out, collapse on the couch saying, oh, I'm so tired from Jesus just wearing me and burning through me, and I'm so just worn out from, wow, all the involvement of the mission down at my job and over at my school. And when you get upset, do you look at your life and say, oh, I'm upset over the mission, the vision, what God is calling us to? In the name of Jesus, I will not be a spectator. I will be at the heart of everything you're doing in my generation. I will be at the core of what you want to accomplish in our town. I cannot do anything else, Jesus, and be yours. The resurrected Lord has called me and become my supply. Moments of seeking,